So if you discuss anything to Giles, what he comes up with is something that you've not even contemplated.
He basically brought people together to do whatever they could do to get things done. That was Giles.
Very intellectually curious, broad-minded, sort of person that you just got on with. It was very funny also.
He was somebody that was grounded and was particular about very, very important and very critical relationships.
Well, I have never known what the story was behind it. I think my father just liked the name and just called him Giles. Giles and I were particularly close. My mum always talked about how close we were. She said even when we could barely speak, we would stay in the room and just start talking, and when she came to the room, we'd stop talking. And she would stand outside and she used to wonder, what are they saying? They can barely speak. But yes, I don't know, we just had this connection from little. Every time he saw a building, he's like, this is not very well done. And I said, how do you know it's not well done? It's a house. He's like, yes, but this line could be straighter. So he just always had that, and he had that interest. And then he also, I know it got to a stage where he started talking about things like urbanization and all sorts of things. Giles always had a lot of, he had a lot of dreams. But I don't know when the architecture one started in particular, but apart from when he was very young and he just said to me, I'm going to study architecture, and that was that. There was no, I don't know what to study. He knew exactly what he was going to do. So it wasn't just about buildings. Giles was also interested in people. For instance, I think his project in Edo State as well. One thing that drove him the most was rehousing or getting a technical college for these people that he saw as impoverished. And he talked to me about people that he met, children, young people that he met that were so talented but could not go to school because their parents couldn't afford it. And he was really, really happy to. So behind him, everything he did, there were people behind. There were people behind. It was not just about the structures. Neither was it about the money and the recognition. It was about the people. So that's one thing I noticed about Giles. So we would talk a lot about that. He was one of those hands-on dads, and he has always been. I remember once when his first son, Toby, when he was little, he was carrying him once, and I said to him, he needs his space. I said, how can a little one need his space? And he would do things like he would carry him and tuck him under his armpit. I'm like, why are you doing that? I said, so he never forgets my smell. like, where'd you get it? I said, where'd you come and get that from?
Well, I can remember Giles vividly when he was in University of Lagos. He was a few years behind me. I remember him as a bubbly young lad, if I may use that word. But fast forward about 20 years ago, we met up in London, and he was working at Allies and Morrison then, and we struck it off again, and it was like a bond made in heaven. After that, we were interested in very similar things, urban issues. We were interested in good quality architecture, and we were also interested in how Nigerian architects could hold their own against an onslaught of international competitions.
I think if there was anybody who liked to have a laugh, that was Giles, right? I would say almost, I would say almost childlike in the purity of it, that he just literally liked having fun. He liked having a good time. He would cackle when there was something that was really funny. He would laugh like a baby.
The thing about Giles is you don't quite know what you're getting into when you see him, because he affects this, he has this rather withdrawn personality to him. You don't really know what's lurking behind, right? Then when you do get to start talking to Giles, especially if you're within the range of what he does, then you know what you're dealing with.
You know, we had the same sort of interests, literature, history, architecture, and I guess that's why we hang out together. We used to hang out together for extended periods of time, just talking about the same things. Of course, smoking and drinking was also very helpful to the relationship because we did both of those things excessively, just partying in London. I mean, it's late 90s, early 90s. So it was just a lot of fun, but also very intellectually curious, broad-minded, sort of person that you just got on with. It was very funny also.
Giles, perfectionist, historian, someone who wanted to get to the bottom of it all. I think Giles was driven more about his own need to understand a certain level of Nigerian history vis-a-vis what was going on at the time.
So when people talk about just the serious side of him, it's like, yeah, but you needed to sit down with him and when you're eating akara and drinking coffee and drinking gin in the morning, yeah, he likes to laugh.
When I think of Giles, I think of excellence and refinement and taste, resilience, purposeful. He was very purposeful and very intentional.
Unashamedly, I could say I loved him as a brother, and he was particular about family. Then he'd immersed himself with the work he had done with RA Consultants for the Obasanjo Library, which he was resident architect on. And Giles was resourceful, Giles was innovative. A lot of the details that would have otherwise been imported, Giles looked for local opportunities to have created those details, the balustrades, and the language behind what it was. So it wasn't just arranging steel pieces together or using a CNC cutter. Everything had a meaning, which is what architecture is. So for me, he was a professional to the core. And finally, the knowledge of architecture and its theories and principles. If Giles took you through London and how London's squares and pocket gardens were created, the garden movement, taking you through how the mall was laid out and why no building is higher than this. He was architecture personified. He was architecture. Every bit of him was architecture.
I remember a particular episode, especially on this staircase railing that's right behind me. This is signature Giles. He needed to be able to perfect the designs, the steel cords, and get it right. That took a while. And it was difficult. Apparently, he had found a local company that claimed they could do it, and everybody allowed him to be able to lead the design, the cutting, and the installation. And Giles basically ran into problems with that particular company. They will not meet the deadline. They will not come on board when they are supposed to come. And it got so bad that we had closed the presidential library totally. We didn't quite understand the import of bringing this staircase into the presidential, to the main building. So we thought, I mean, there will be space for that to be able to come until when they brought it in, we found out that we had to remove the whole of the front door to be able to use a forklift to move the staircase. At this time, everybody was just looking at Giles and begging him literally, Giles, we know you want, even President Obasanjo had to intervene and look, Giles, it's good enough, okay? We don't need to make it perfect that you want. Whatever it is good enough. We think the designs are great and we can still use it as it is. But not Giles. He had to deliver what he wanted to deliver. And we gave him the opportunity, and I think he did. At serious pains to him, of course. But he did deliver what he wanted to deliver.
A digital knowledge center for King's College. By the time we finished the conceptual framework, the architectural framework that I sent to KC, the KC old boys were so excited about this project. In fact, it's still a project to be done because it's a more recent thing. They approved it. We attended several meetings together. You know, when you think digital knowledge center, you have a particular prism of what this is involved, what's involved in doing that. But when it's Giles who puts it together, right, it's a totally different concept. It's a massive, you know, he's taking into account how this can turn our young people between the age of 11 to 17, how we can actually create what India became. Giles had gone beyond the framework that I gave him, right? Even the way he teased mathematics into this center and the way he related to what that would do to logical thinking. All sorts of things he brought to bear. We were relating with Microsoft, we related with KPMG, just in putting together a digital center for King's College. You know, it's something I think it would be a shame if we never get to do. So when you reflect on the character of such a person, he's not just an architect. He brings history, he brings knowledge of the space. You know, the way he integrates Nigerian culture into what he does. I think probably the people that will appreciate it more is those guys out there that he was working with.
I can't forget those three words that showed up on my phone on that day. The three words were simple. We lost Giles.
We didn't really know anything about the cancer until very late.
Yeah.
Because my first reaction was I cried.
But when this health challenge came in the way they did, it really took things totally out of the normal range. You know, so I saw quite a bit of him, you know, before eventually he went back on this trip, you know, from which he didn't come back. You know, but there was a sense in which I felt, wow, why do good people, you know, end up this way? You know, because Giles is certainly one of the people that when you relate to, you always have a positive feel to what he represented. He was probably one of the most simple people I've met and easy to get on with. He does not look down on people. He knows more than most people, but he wouldn't relate to you on that basis. So I think my friendship with Giles, you know, has taught me a little bit more humility, you know, in the way knowledge is conveyed to other people, because he had lots of knowledge.
Giles is like a walking encyclopedia as well. So a lot of times, instead of me going on to Google or ChatGPT or anything, I'd just ask Giles, especially if I wanted quick answers. And so I find myself picking up my phone and like, Giles, like even when I was, getting ready for his send-off, I refused to call it a funeral. I called it a send-off. I was trying to do the family tree, and I was trying to remember my grandmother's maiden name, because I was trying to do the tree, and I sent a message saying, what's Grand's maiden name, before I realized.
Well, I called him Olu Giles. He'll say Egbon. I'll say, well, whatever is left to be done, we would ensure that it is done. Whatever is left unfinished, I will ensure we struggle to finish it.
I will say to him, in the light of the things he went through, both in his personal life and even in his professional life, I will say to him, take heart. You walked properly in the course of your journey. You have nothing to regret. You came across as the human being that God made you to be. Life is not judged in terms of how long one lives, it's how well one lives. And Giles lived very well. It was a short life, but a very, very effective life. So I should say to him, go home, be happy. We're happy to have known you. And you've proven that decency is possible, even in our challenge environment.
I'll probably say what I was saying to him in the hospital. I'll say, come back. It's going to be a lot better. I can't say to him, I love you. He probably already knows that. It's, he had so much. I've never heard of someone that had so much inside him, so much to give. It's difficult. I feel like, you hear things when people, when we went to war, were injured and they were amputated, and they say they don't have an arm, but they can still feel the arm. That's just the way I feel. I'm glad he had children. I'm glad, people say, the memories, but because there was so much life in Giles's eyes, at no point was it as if you couldn't. The last day he said to me, I'd given him some painkillers. He said to me, I have painkillers in my suitcase. He said, there's a little container, they're pink. He said, Chuka's wife gave them to me. He said, there are 2 of them. I searched and searched and searched, and I couldn't find them. After he passed and went back to the house, I was putting his things away, and I found them.